from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
A pleasant evening and a very warm welcome to the National News Rupavahini ChannelEye. I'm Delanjali Ananda.
And I'm Sharon Mascarenhas. First is a look at the day's headlines.
Prices of bread, wheat flour and sugar decrease. The Colombo Stock Exchange records the highest growth in 3 months. IMF is ready to grant the credit facility to Sri Lanka. A committee will be set up for management of financial crisis. The President says Sri Lanka is in lead to secure rights of women in the Asian region. Colombo students' protest was dispersed. The Trade Minister says eggs have not yet been imported. Afghan women have been deprived of their rights.
And those were the headlines for you for today. Well, there's a lot of celebrations happening this entire week, coinciding with International Women's Day, which falls today.
And the theme for this time is digital innovation, technology for gender equality, and highlights the role of innovative technology in promoting gender equality and meeting the health and development needs of women and girls. And there's yet lot more to be captured in this spectrum. A group of female workers in a clothing factory in New York on March 8, 1857 had engaged in a protest march demanding core rights in their profession. It was the first women's protest march in the world history. A proposal was made at the Socialist Women's Convention held in 1910 to declare 8th of March every year as the International Women's Day. This proposal was first put into practice in the USA and Germany. Millions of women throughout the world marked this day as their birthday of freedom. Over half of the Sri Lanka's population are females. They directly contribute to the 29% of gross domestic production. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that Sri Lankan women are in the forefront when compared to those in other countries of the region.
Sri Lanka also takes the lead for securing rights of women in the Asian region. The President made these remarks participating in the International Women's Day celebrations in Colombo today. This event has been organized by the Ministry of Women and Child Affairs under the title She is the Dignity of the Nation. The national policy prepared in the country for the first time for gender equality and empowering women was also launched at this ceremony. State Minister Geeta Kumarasinghe handed over the new policy manifesto to the President. 5 leading women who have brought fame to the country at international and national level from various fields were also honored with awards at this event. In addition, 25 women who were adjudicated as the best women entrepreneur at the district level were also distributed with certificates and prizes. President Ranil Wickremesinghe highlighted that the national policy of gender equality and women's empowerment, as well as the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security, will aid in achieving this goal. The progress made over several years of hard work will be unveiled on International Women's Day, which will be a significant milestone for women in the country. During the past year period up to now, significant changes have occurred in the country, primarily due to the economic collapse. The people of the country, including women and men, have suffered greatly, and there is currently a debate as to who is responsible for this situation. While various names are being called out in this discussion, the President noted that none of them are women. Therefore, women should not be held accountable for this incident. The President said that he thinks that that it is important to mention the names of 3 women who played a significant role. The President acknowledged Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister of India, and who played a vital role in providing a $3 billion loan to Sri Lanka after the country was declared bankrupt last April. Her decision to discuss the matter with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet and to provide a loan to the country in such a dire financial state was a remarkable, courageous act. Without the availability of those funds during those 3 to 4 months, the current situation in the country would be far more challenging, and for that, we must express our gratitude to her. Additionally, a crucial role was played by several key countries in supporting us during this challenging time. Notably, our talks with the United States, led by Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, were instrumental in securing aid for Sri Lanka. The President also mentioned that Mrs. Kristalina Georgieva made a personal sacrifice for Sri Lanka by taking the lead to negotiate with the countries, the Paris Club, the World Bank and others. If these 3 women had not supported us, we would have been in dire situation. The Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, ministers, parliamentarians and foreign ambassadors were also present at this occasion.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that new incentives should be introduced to empower and attract women into the bank sector. The Prime Minister made these remarks addressing a group of top officials and executive officers of state and private banks. The Premier added that urban, rural and estate women can be empowered in economic abilities under the new methods. They should be protected from the exploitation of informal creditors and finance organizations. The Prime Minister stressed that the banks sector should extend their support for the proposed system of food security and rural economic revival in over 14,000 Gram Niladhari divisions. Senior officials of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka said that they can extend support to strengthen financial security and solve the problems of surety needs once the attractive new credit schemes have been declared. Meanwhile, a number of programs have been organized to mark the International Women's Day today. A health promotion program was held at the Bandaranayake Ayurvedic Research Institute in Navinna. 5 programs to provide treatment and medicines free of charge for women were introduced at this ceremony. The Women's Day celebration, organized by Sri Lanka Trade and Marine Professions Association and the SLFB Trade Union, was held at the Foundation Institute in Colombo. It was held under the patronage of Director of International Labour Organization for Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Simran Singh. Another ceremony organized by the Eksat Lak Vanitha Peramuna was held at the UNP headquarters in Pitakote today. Former General Secretary of the Parliament Priyani Vijayasekara, General Secretary of the UNP, Palitha Rangebandara, and Chairperson of the Eksat Lak Vanitha Peramuna, Shantini Kongahage, were present at this occasion. Meanwhile, Women for Rights organization staged a protest campaign at the Diata Uyana premises in Battaramula against the high cost of living, increased tax, power hike and postponement of local government polls. Vanitha Balavege of the SJB has organized a commemorative ceremony at the Vihara Mahadevi Open Theatre in Colombo. Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa graced this occasion as the chief guest. Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation conducted a health counselling program at the corporation premises in line with the International Women's Day. Employees Welfare Association at the SLRC has organised this with the help of Mampe Lions Club of 306 82 district. A theoretical and practical training workshop on heart failures and cardiac diseases and instant treatment was conducted at the ceremony. The program was headed by District Cabinet Secretary Lioness Sunetra Tantriwatka.
When we see a parachute descending down from the air, we feel that it is a huge challenge to jump to the ground from an aircraft flying in high altitude. It is most significant that women have also accepted this challenge at present. They are none else other than members of the women parachute team of the Sri Lanka Army. The team is comprised of 2 women officers and 5 women soldiers. They obtained the basic training at the Parachute Training School at the Commando Regiment in Kudawe. After 1 month preliminary training, they obtained the skill of jumping down from a height of 1,000 feet. Following this training, skilled women soldiers will be selected for freestyle parachute jumping course for another period of 1 month. While descending down from the high altitudes, these women soldiers display marvelous drill exercises. After successful completion of this very hard training, they will be honored with the symbol of 2 wings from the Sri Lanka Army.
Now, the Consumer Affairs Authority has decided to reduce the prices of several essential consumer items with effect from midnight today. Wheat flour, bread and sugar are among the reduced consumer items. The Consumer Affairs Authority has also decided to continue raids to arrest the traders who do not act to pass the benefit of the price reduction to the consumers. A price of a loaf of bread has reduced by 10 rupees. A kilo of wheat flour has been reduced by 15 rupees. A kilo of sugar will go down by 25 rupees from tomorrow. Minister Nalin Fernando said that strengthening of Sri Lanka rupee against the US dollar made changes at the market prices. He pointed out that the price of many essential items could be reduced due to this scenario. He further said that government expects the situation could ease and pressure on the food prices in the coming weeks.
Sri Lankan rupee is further appreciating against the US dollar. The central bank reports also point out that the rupee has appreciated against other units of foreign currency. A buying rate of a US dollar in many commercial banks today was at 310 rupees. The selling rate was between 325 to 335 rupees. Economic experts point out that the rupee is further appreciated due to a number of positive economic factors.
The CSE had a great start for the week on Tuesday with the ASPI index closing at 9,642, up by 198 points, and the S&P Sri Lanka 20 index moving up by 30 points to close at 2,869 with a daily turnover of 3.4 billion rupees. Today, the ASPI index was up by 4.92 points, closing the day at 9,647 with a turnover of 3.2 billion rupees.
Meanwhile, the Colombo Stock Exchange recorded the highest value in 3 months today. Brokers attributed this positive situation to the vision presented by the President of the national economy and the agreement with the IMF.
But the chief of IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, has confirmed that the agreement for granting $2.9 billion credit facility to Sri Lanka will be submitted to the IMF Executive Board on the 20th of this month. With the allocation of the IMF credit facility, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank will be able to grant credit facilities to Sri Lanka. Upon having Chinese approval, all creditors to Sri Lanka have expressed their consent needed to IMF regarding Sri Lanka's credit facility at present. Accordingly, the next step will be the submission of staff-level agreement made between the Sri Lankan government and the IMF for the approval of the IMF Director Board. As there is no objection by the Director Board agenda, IMF Asia Pacific Director Krishna Srinivasan states that the Director Board considered the relevant agreement and will surely give its approval. Meanwhile, Chief of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, has also issued a Twitter message expressing her satisfaction in this regard. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka says Sri Lanka's foreign reserves have increased up to $2,217 billion during the month of February. According to the Central Bank, this is 44.5% increase. The USA has also expressed satisfaction towards Sri Lanka for being able to have the consent of all creditors for the IMF credit facility. In a Twitter message, US Ambassador in Sri Lanka, Julie Chang, has stated that the IMF credit package will lead to revitalization of Sri Lanka's economy.
Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Bandula Guruvardhana says that Sri Lanka's being able to join the IMF Comprehensive Credit Agreement is a significant victory for Sri Lanka. The minister made this comment joining the press briefing held today to inform the cabinet decision. Minister Dr. Bandula Guruvardhana said that under the new tax policy, the entire citizens of the country had to make enormous sacrifices in the economic sector. They had to bear up the price increase of fuel, gas, electricity and many other items and services. As a result of the enormous commitment, the IMF has agreed to prove the credit facility to Sri Lanka. After this positive trend, illegal transactions, including the undial and many other methods, have decreased.
Now, Sri Lanka's 6th periodic review under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights will be held on 8th and 9th of March 2023 in Geneva. At the request of Sri Lanka, the 6th review will be conducted in hybrid format and will be led by Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the UN in Geneva, Himali Arunatilaka.
Sri Lanka attaches great importance to respecting, protecting and upholding the human rights of all its citizens. Despite significant constraints due to recent social, political and economic challenges, we have continued our engagement with the United Nations and its human rights structures, the last being our active engagement during Sri Lanka's UPR review under the 4th cycle in February this year. We thank all delegations who shared constructive advice and recommendations with us. Continuing on this trajectory of positive engagement, we intend to have a constructive dialogue with the Human Rights Committee during this. Sri Lanka's 6th periodic report under the ICCPR was submitted in February 2019, and it includes responses to recommendations contained in the committee's concluding observations following the 5th periodic report in 2014. Sri Lanka is looking towards 2023 as a year of socio-economic stabilization, reconciliation and recovery. Last year, Sri Lanka experienced its most challenging period in recent times amidst unprecedented global crises. We have made steady progress on many fronts and we are committed to remain in focus to achieve a sustainable recovery, which is essential for the welfare of the people. As this committee is aware, the period under review posed unprecedented socio-economic challenges for us. During the past year, the government focused on economic recovery and restoration of law and order. Its main objective was to restore economic and political stability and on delivering urgent socio-economic necessities. The government is focused on addressing the underlying economic issues on a priority basis, including through discussions with international partners and the International Monetary Fund. In order to minimize the negative impact of economic hardship on the most vulnerable segments of the population and to ensure provision of an adequate social safety net, targeted preventive measures have been undertaken by the government. On the broad political, social and economic fronts, we have made clear progress. Democratic constitutional processes have been strictly adhered to in effecting transition, and our parliamentary and public institutions have remained resilient.
And that's all on local news. Stay tuned for international stories coming up next.
Spicy rasa cream kottu mee khanakota papare beat taken nat way set එක තාලට ගස්සල boundary උඩින් කප්පක උස්සමු දෙති cheera කරමාද tin cream kottu mee big match fun cream kottu mee තියනකම් cream kottu mee fun තමයි.
Welcome back on Foreign News. millions of Afghan female students have been unable to attend secondary schools and universities for over a year following a ban by the ruling Taliban. The United Nations on Wednesday said Afghanistan under the Taliban government is the most repressive country in the world for women's rights, with authorities effectively trapping women and girls in their homes. The Taliban has barred girls above 6th grade from attending schools since they came to power in 2021. The rulers initially gave a shortage of teachers, a lack of school infrastructure for gender segregation and other reasons for the continued closure of schools. Primary schools have been allowed to run. Some senior Taliban leaders have called for schools to be reopened, saying there was no valid reason in Islam for the ban. According to UNESCO, currently 80% of school-aged Afghan girls and young women, totaling to 2.5 million people, are out of school. The Taliban's decision to keep girls' school shuttered has reversed significant gains in female education during the past 20 years. And that's all the news we have for tonight. Join us tomorrow at the very same time. I'm Bilanjali, together with Sharon, signing off. Good night.